It is 3 now, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you're making us a part of your day here on this Friday. So much to get to here on the show. We'll hear from Dr. Welch Suggs, Associate Professor of Journalism at the University of Georgia. We've seen some tweets out there that University of Georgia is sending out emails to boosters saying, hey, you can DM our athletes as long as for autographs and things, as long as it's for fair market value. Now, nobody knows what that is yet, but again, we'll talk to him and get an idea of kind of what he sees coming around name, image, and likeness. Also, Tavares King, former Georgia NFL wide receiver. We'll talk to him about name, image, likeness, about the college football playoff expansion, about just this Georgia team coming into 2021 as well. And today, a special and sad day as well. We'll talk to Sean Bedford, Georgia Tech Radio Network, former All-ACC center. We'll talk to him about name, image, likeness, as well as we see athletes exploding all over the place with deals. But today also a sad day as well. We say goodbye to our own Cody Queen, who's leaving us after today. Oh, he's excited now. But in his honor, he was like all mellow earlier on second down. Now he's like, I'm out. He's like got senioritis now. The countdown is on.
I'm gonna retire to Florida. See you guys.
But we came to Cody came to us, BJ, and you said, Cody, we are going to have to learn you and educate you on college football. You're a big NFL guy. So we're going to see how much he's actually learned in his time here. We're going to give him a little football quiz later in the show to see how much college football he actually has retained during his time with us. So we'll get to that coming up in the final hour of the show as well.
Yeah, look, Cody's done a great job. And obviously, he's sending a message in the chat saying, I've none. How much have I retained? None. No, he's done a great job. We're going to miss Cody, but, it's been instrumental in the growth of our show and us being able to do this every day. And we're going to have some fun with you today, Cody, but have enjoyed getting to know you, man. You're obviously a friend and a big part of everything that we've done over the last couple of years. And it is amazing, though, because we're all like, oh, man, it's a sad day. Cody's walking around. He's got a pep in his step. He's pumped up to start the show. Come on, Cody.
Like, I'm out.
That'd be emotional.
You guys know me already. I'm pumped up at every single thing I do, even on sad days. I don't have sad days. No sad days in this office. I'm the captain. I got to make sure the troops are freaking ready. You hear me? The captain's never sad. Okay, guys, be happy no matter what.
That is. Listen, words to live by Cody James Queen, the only man to give you his everything but his social security number when you first meet him. But I'm gonna miss you, Cody. The thing about Cody is this: one word, original. Most people walk around in this life trying to be who they really are. Cody don't have a problem. I mean, everybody, if Cody's saying, do you need a hug during a meeting? Or, saying things that are just completely inappropriate, because that's just Cody. That's just who Cody is. Cody's like, look, man, okay, I got plenty of life left in me. I mean, I'm just changing states. I'm pretty sure we'll see Cody again, probably on the news, hopefully for something. But at the same time, they don't make him like you, Cody, man. We gonna miss you, man. Like you say, this ain't the end. It's just, see you at a later time, which hopefully, I'll be sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. So we go from that sad news to the Hawks getting obliterated last night by the Bucs. So we talked about this earlier. Hawks got out-rebounded on the night, got obliterated in the paint in terms of offensive output. Brook Lopez looked like he was, trying to channel Bill Russell or something in there. I mean, it was not a good night from the jump. John Collins started off 0 for 6. We talked yesterday on the show. Who needs a big game? John Collins. He's your kind of next superstar 1B, if you will, to Trae Young. He needs a big game. Well, he started off 0 for 6, and the Hawks were in a big hole early. How do you bounce back from Game 5, knowing that you may not have Trae Young in Game 6?
I mean, I think it's obvious that you have to be more effective in the paint. And you mentioned some of the stats. Out-rebounded 47-40. I think that, even though it's not good, you could possibly overcome. But you were outscored by 30 in the paint. The Bucs scored 66. You scored 36 in the paint. So you were absolutely overwhelmed around the glass, and it was a struggle right from tip. You mentioned it, Kevin. The Bucs came out, played really well early. I thought Milwaukee had a great energy, and obviously much of their game plan with Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis and PJ Tucker focused on performing well, rebounding, defending well around the basket. And look, Brook Lopez, it was a throwback vintage performance. I mean, you're right. He looked like Shaq, Bill Russell. I mean, he was dominating. He had 33 points on 14 of 18 shooting. That's incredible. I mean, that is remarkably efficient. And if you have a center for your opponent scoring 33 on 14 of 18, you're going to have a really hard time. And that's what happened. We don't know what Trey's status is moving forward. Of course, it goes without saying, getting him back would be a major boost. I think being at home will clearly help, but you've got to be more effective around the glass. Both of the games you've won in this series, you have out-rebounded Milwaukee. You're talking about not only being out-rebounded, but the vast majority of their meaningful points came in the paint. Again, almost 70 points. So you've got to be more effective defensively. And I know you kind of don't know what's going on with Young, but Ben, if you're going to win this game 6 and force a game 7, you've got to be more effective down on the block around the basket. And I think that's where you look and kind of point to the area where you've got to have improvement.
It scares you too, because I know that each game has been different. I mean, the first game, second game, third game, each game, whichever team won the game, they showed something different on offense. Everybody was very, very confident going to the game 5 based off, what Lou Williams and company showed. But BJ and Kevin, something I talk about all the time. A dominant big man in the NBA is a unicorn. There's nothing you can do with it because the guys that play now aren't built to play that kind of basketball. They aren't built to bang. You got all these swing players. I mean, Brook Lopez, I remember when he was in Brooklyn. I mean, he was an incredible player. But the fact that he has that in him, 14 to 18, and it's in the paint, where outscored 66 to 36, out rebound 47 to 40. I mean, I understand that you're going to have a different game playing a game 6, but Brook Lopez is still going to be Brook. He's still going to be a 7-footer that want to bang down low against Collins and Capella and those guys who, I mean, BJ, I mean, we weren't watching it live. I mean, but you can see it every other, like Lopez. And it's almost like when the Hawks lose, it's Middleton. Shoot him out the gym. He scored 20 in the fourth. The Hawks scored 17. Brooks Lopez, I'm thinking, wait a minute. The Hawks lost and they couldn't stop who? Not Middleton. Not Holiday. Not PJ Tucker. Is shutting guys out defensively. Brooks Lopez. So now, excuse me, if you do get Trey, okay. Trey ain't gonna go at Brooks. Trey ain't shutting down Brooks. And that's what's scary about a Milwaukee team without Giannis. They proved that Brooks Lopez can give you Giannis production. And for me, I just think that what scares me about moving forward is, yes, you're going to get Trey back. You're going to get his production. But, okay, what's going to be their game plan for game 6? Because last night they was like, we're going to crash the boards. We're going to play big boy ball. And if they can out-muscle us, they can beat us. But if they can't, it won't. It got ugly. I mean, it is just one game. I know the next game is the elimination game if they can force a game 7. But what is it about boxing out, rebounding, shooting free throws, keeping guys off the block? That's fundamental basketball. And for some reason, if guys ain't playing one-on-one and trying to create their own shot with isolations, it gets ugly. It got ugly last night. It is only one game, but I'm just saying, if you've never seen the Bucks play, and that's the first time you've seen them play last night, you saying, who is this Brook Lopez?
Well, I mean, Ben and Kevin, we did know this was going to be an issue, right? Because entering this series, the Bucks were the best rebounding team in the playoffs. And when you look at their roster, yes, they were very, very good in the backcourt. But when you look at the front court, especially with Giannis, a lot of size, a lot of defensive ability, great rebounders. And you knew that this was going to be a big factor entering the series. And it's amazing all that kind of dominance in the paint cancels out, right? Because, Kevin, Ben, for so much of this series, what have Hawks fans been asking, aside from the Trae Young stuff, when is Bogdanovich going to have a big game? Well, he had a big game last night. Bogdanovich was scoring, was filling it up, but when you're getting dominated in the paint and you're being outscored by 30 points around the basket, it kind of doesn't matter. And not only did the Hawks lose, they were down by 15, 10 to 20 for the vast majority of the game. They actually made a late run, if you didn't see it, a late run, I say, but they actually closed the gap a little bit to kind of make it look a little more respectable. They were not in this game. They were not in this game, and the reason, Kevin and Ben, is because of what happened. With the Bucks being effective attacking the basket, rebounding, obviously, offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding, and I think the Hawks are better than what they showed last night. I mean, Clint Capella led the league in rebounding in the regular season, but that's where the improvement has to start.
Well, they were again. I think if you have no Trey in Game 6, it's going to be tough, right? But I think, BJ, if you also are the Hawks, you look at Trey, you say, look, we're going to have you give everything you got to try to play on Saturday. Otherwise, this thing could be over. And again, I'm not saying you jeopardize Trey Young's career to get it done, but I mean, the season is over if you don't win, right? I mean, and again, it's probably tenuous at best if you do win on Saturday night. You got to go back to Milwaukee and win there. So I think, to me, Atlanta has their hopes riding on whether or not Trey Young's going to be able to go, because I said this earlier on Second Down. If Trey Young can go, you at least one up Milwaukee as superstar, right? They have no Giannis. You can put Trey out there and kind of have your superstar back out there, at least drawing attention and at least bringing his distribution efforts to the offensive end to get guys involved. I think without Trey, man, Saturday night is going to be really, really tough for them to bounce back and try to get that dub. And again, that's not to diminish the season at all, but you're missing your superstar. You needed a superstar to step up, right? Who's your next closest superstar? It's John Collins, right? Number 1 draft pick. That's the guy you would go to. He was 0 for 6 to start the game in obviously the biggest game of the Hawks franchise. Without your other star, he was 0 for 6 to get started, and you got too far behind right off the jump. I think John Collins has got to be bigger. And again, I know John Collins, hate to say it, Ben, John Collins wants to be a max contract guy. I mean, that would have been a good night to show you wanted to be a max contract guy last night. And again, you got off to such a slow start. It really hurt the Hawks last night not to have him kind of just on fire from the jump.
Yeah, John Collins is going to have to decide. I mean, right, wrong, indifferent. He owed them one. And I do agree in Game 6, you got to have Trey. The thing I was saying for Game 4, when Trey gets to decide if he plays, it's a little bit different. The circumstance always dictate what the player does as far as like options. If Trey is not 100% and he don't feel it, he can't go. But as like you said, Kevin, got a full off season. And we might not win the game. But you know, with BJ, it's the optics. You know, we'll start doing this. He ain't look. I mean, did he look like he was limping on the sideline? I mean, the things we didn't say in Game 4, you say in Game 6, because like we mentioned, every game moving forward is the biggest game in Hawks franchise history. So if Trey can go, he needs to go strictly from a confidence standpoint, because I mean, Lou Williams did his best Trey Young impression, but that's not going to continue moving forward. And need a guy that can run the offense and score, and he knows how to get the best out of John Collins. John Collins is going to have to go out there and play the game of his Hawks life, because every guy wants a max contract, even if they ain't a max player. But if John Collins give you a heroic effort, Trey is giving you that confidence off the bench, dare I say the role players play their role, you could potentially see a Game 7 that puts way more pressure on Milwaukee to have to win it, because there is no game after that. So for me, it's not even about winning the Game 7. It's about making it the Game 7.
Yeah, real quick, Kevin, I just wanted to say that. I know it was disappointing last night, and there are certainly unknowns about Trey Young's health and, what he might be able to do moving forward. But to Ben's point, you are 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. So I know last night was disappointing, but let's not lose sight of the fact that you're 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. One of those games is going to be at home, and if you win, it's a Game 7 situation where all the pressure is on Milwaukee. You're 2 wins away from the Finals. Bad loss last night, but regroup. Let's get a better effort on Saturday.
Do you believe this Hawks team can win 2 games in a row?
Yes. I mean, I feel better about Saturday than I would a Game 7 because it's at home and not on the road. But one at a time, you got to get 2 one at a time. But yes, I think they can.
We'll talk more about that as we go throughout the show here on this Friday. But when we come back, BJ called it yesterday. Is there now some renewed optimism? Boy, BJ likes riding that roller coaster from they're done to they're back in it. We'll get to that next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Braves and Marlins coming up this weekend before Braves and Pirates, then Braves and Marlins. Then we're at the All-Star break. Once again, Ben, we've been asking BJ all season long, if nobody rides the Braves roller coaster like BJ Bennett, and he's got a fast pass, a season pass. He's ridden that thing more times than anybody else. They stink. They're done. Oh, we're back in it. They stink. They're done. Like, it is up and down. So where are you at, BJ? Are you getting ready for the loop-de-loop? Are you getting ready to crest the hill? Are you down at the bottom? Where are you at on the Braves roller coaster here?
Oh, it's interesting. I think I'm kind of reflective of what's happening. I have the audacity to talk to you when they're like 7 games out and say, hey, man, they got to win some games. And then when they do, I have the audacity to say, hey, they're playing a little better. I mean, it's crazy. Hold on a second.
No.
Because
no. The Braves are done.
I haven't said the Braves are done. I've said the Braves are getting in trouble. Now, what has happened, if we're talking about riding the emotional roller coaster, you literally told Christian you could not emotionally look at the standings. You told Christian you were incapable of looking at the standings because it upset you too much. And I get it. I'm with you. I'm just saying, when they're struggling, I come on and I say, hey, they're struggling. It's an important weekend. It's an important stretch. Here's why I'm optimistic. Not only was it a very good series against the Mets, and a couple of days ago, I wasn't overly optimistic. I don't know if anybody was. When you had that great lead with the Ozzie home run, and then you lose that game, and you're looking ahead, and you're saying, oh boy, here's DeGrom coming up, and you're thinking, if you don't do well in this series, that's a really tough step back in the standings that you can't look at, that Ben and I and Christian, we have to look at and talk about. But you won 2 games. It got a little different last night with Will Smith coming in. Or I say different. It was, there were some more of the same struggles out of the bullpen, but it got a little unique, I should say, out of the bullpen. But you were able to win, and you scored 3 runs against DeGrom. And I thought there was an outside chance of that happening just because you were getting to kind of a historical sort of threshold that we had never seen before. And, what did we say, Kevin? Yesterday on the show, we said, look, can you get – and Adrianza leading off with the triple was incredible, but, can you get a guy on? Can you get a homer? Can you get one swing? And Austin Riley was able to give you that. But here's where I am right now. You get the walk-off late from Freddie, which was desperately needed. But here's where you are, Kevin. Not only are you 3.5 games back in the division, but as we've talked about with records a lot, records can be indicative of how you play, how good you are, and who you play. And the Braves coming up to finish out the first half of the schedule have the Marlins. And again, the Marlins are a very good pitching team. And I think offensively they're up and down, but you have the Marlins who are last in the division. You have the Pirates who have one of the worst records in baseball, and you have the Marlins. So what, 9 or 10 games to finish it up against the Marlins and Pirates? Is this a chance, guys, fresh off of a series win against the Mets, to get on that hot streak we've been waiting for?
Look, BJ, I mean, when it comes to the Braves, this is what happened. We'll say, I said, Kevin, go, Ben. And BJ go, look, I mean, did you guys see that, if they lose tonight, they're going to be 5 back? This is what happened to optimism when it comes to baseball. It's a 24-hour cycle. What you were feeling the day before can go away in one game. Because BJ goes, oh my God, they're tied it up. Oh my God, they're doing it again. And then Freddie Freak comes in. No, it's always who you do it against. It's always who you do it against. My optimism is not because of what happened last night. It started when they beat Bauer and Kershaw back to back. The frustration comes in with the Braves because of games like like yesterday. The Braves made DeGrom look human. Now, that's going to be bad for whoever he got to play next. They said DeGrom was losing it,
Yeah. After that, he struck out 14 guys.
But what I'm saying is the Braves scored. The Braves should have swept the Mets. I mean, they was up. I mean, they lost the first game and shouldn't have. They obviously just blew the doors off the game too, and then they beat DeGrom yesterday. I'm frustrated with the Braves because the Braves can win despite all the nonsense that they've dealt with thus far. They're doing this without Ozuna. Watch Kyle Nora. I mean, if he don't punch, something, he's in the lineup. No more Mike Soroka news. I mean, I saw Papa B Papa B can't stand Dansby Swanson. Like, look at him. either grow the beard or not. Like, what? Grow it out or not? I don't want to see that, I'm just saying. So my optimism is always there until Kevin says it's over. Like, listen, I'm going on record. July the 2nd, when Kevin says it's over, I will turn to BJ.
No. Now, a couple of weeks ago, even Kevin was starting to get a little. He's like, well, you look at the standings, and we got this coming up. And yeah, I mean, Christian has long said that. He's long said, look, man, Kevin is the most optimistic. When he gets worried, when he can't look at the standings, that's a worry for us all. But no, it was a big series, Kevin, against the Mets. We knew it was. You needed to get a couple of wins. You did, and not only do you have the Marlins, the Pirates, and the Marlins coming up, I believe some of the other top teams in the division, at least on paper, have a tougher stretch to finish out the first half.
Yeah, Nats have the Dodgers and Padres. The Mets are playing the Yankees and the Brewers. So, I mean, again, not that they won't win games, but you can't go into a Dodgers-Padres stretch and just think, oh, they're going to win 5 out of 6. Like, that probably isn't going to happen. So you need to be able to take advantage of those nights when you have a little bit easier opportunities out there. And I think the Pirates-Marlins is pretty good. I think the Marlins are better than people give them credit for, but you still should win more than you lose right now against that Miami Marlins team. So a good stretch for the Braves they got to take advantage of, and I hope they do to stay up there. And again, it's a new day on the flip side. I've mentioned this a number of times. Once we get to the All-Star break, I'm very interested for people to pay attention August and September and see who are some teams that absolutely go in the tank. One, because maybe they're tired. Ben with BJ, we've heard this about the NBA postseason. Oh, guys are getting hurt because of the crunched up seasons. Well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I think some of them are just circumstantial. But the fact is, baseball is a marathon sport. You played 60 games. That's nothing. That's a sprint last year. You then had an off season for a lot of teams, and now you're going to go from 60 right into 162, especially with pitching and how it's been taxed, and guys don't go as far into games. Who are some teams that just absolutely fall off a cliff? I could see the Mets if DeGrom starts to fatigue a little bit, and Stroman does from innings loads. I mean, that bullpen is not one that gives you a lot of confidence. They're going to hold up over the long. I could see some of these teams taking slides back. Now, same could be applied to, I guess, the Braves too, but I'm interested to see who battles through these last 80 games and actually finishes strong versus who's hanging on for dear life at the end of this stretch.
It usually does come down to healthy bodies in most sports. That's not how we really look at it because we get so caught up in the stars or who doing what. But it's like everybody's talking about like with the NBA. Oh, LeBron is saying, I told you it was going to be guys getting hurt. Well, it's because you guys are out too. Like it's easy to say that when AD is out. But yeah, Kevin, I mean, I think the Braves are more, equipped to handle it down the stretch because they've been dealing with injuries and off the field stuff the whole season. I do think DeGrom is going to hit a wall because, like you mentioned, at least with the Braves, you can count on your offense to help you. The Mets pitchers cannot count on. They better win 3-0, 4. Because if somebody put up 5 runs against him, I don't think they got the offensive firepower to be back in games. But yeah, after the All-Star break, it's always all right. What type of nagging? Because I could be wrong, but Tatis Jr. I don't know if the Padres are, but he's playing on like a torn knee. Something's wrong with his knee, and he's still playing. So I do think that it's going to come down to health. Kevin, that does bode well for the Braves. No more Soroka talk. Noah should be back hopefully sometime this season. But yeah, if you can have your way against the Dodgers, beat the Mets, you got to feel good moving forward. Just don't play down to bad competition. That is what scares me about the Braves. They'll play elite pitching. They'll go out there and give you elite with their bats. Bad teams, the Braves got beat, 15-6. Like what? I just don't want to see that happen.
And we'll continue to talk about it as we lead up to Braves and Marlins coming up tonight. We'll come back. Name, image, likeness has been huge, and over the last 24 hours, just deals everywhere out there. We'll talk to Dr. Welch Suggs, Associate Professor of Journalism. How do we kind of cover these guys now that they are getting some of these deals? He'll join us next. It's 3 Down on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us on this Friday. We are efforting Dr. Welch Suggs, Associate Professor of Journalism at the UGA, and we'll get his thoughts on name, image, likeness. We've seen just numbers and numbers of deals that are getting put together out there across college athletic spectrum, and a lot of different things out there, including BJ and Ben. I don't know if you saw this. We were talking about this earlier. Master P's son got a deal. He's an incoming freshman at Tennessee Tech, I think, and he's got a deal to name, image, likeness, a app development company. And he's going to get paid $2 million over the next 4 years to promote an app development company.
If you've never seen, obviously, Master P is one of the most brilliant minds when you talk about entrepreneurship or what he's done. With No Limit Records and just No Limit as a brand. But his son Romeo, who went to USC, who played at USC, the Trojans, when he got done playing basketball, he used to do a lot of stuff like that. So the one thing about Master P, Percy, I think his name Percy Miller, the one thing he does for his sons is he's always showing them how to go out there and get it themselves. But look at how he did it. He waited on everybody else. De'Aaron King, 20,000. BJ, what's the receiver name for Arkansas that signed with PetSmart?
Oh yeah. I saw that. I can't recall.
Think about this. People go, well, a tech company. It doesn't matter what it is. It's legit. He hasn't even got to college yet. Does the coach that's going to be coaching him make $2 million? I ain't counting his money, but I'm just saying. I'm happy for him though. Go out there and get your.
And apparently, we've seen all kinds of things. DJ Uiagalelei, this was in the last half hour. Apparently, has signed with an agency a 2-year deal, and they are expecting him to get high dollar potential endorsement deals out of that. So you're seeing it happen fast and furious there. And I'm kind of wondering again how this market develops, Ben, because I think in this market, as it's coming out, and I'm not saying Master P's son wasn't worth $2 million. I just know probably a lot of people as a rising senior into college going to Tennessee Tech. A lot of people maybe have not heard of him or know who he is, potentially getting a huge deal. And I think in this market, there's the ability to say, look, maybe it doesn't matter who it is as long as we can put it out there and say, hey, this company has now got the biggest deal out there, right? We just gave a guy $2 million and you're going to get known for giving the deal, maybe more so than the athlete that's using the name, image, and likeness, right? You're getting more pub off the fact that you gave a deal like that. So I think it's very interesting to see how the market settles itself versus the initial, the initial rush to kind of get endorsements and get kids signed on and put name and image out there and all that kind of stuff, and see where it actually is when it settles. Because I think this is the turbulent waters of the beginning where money's going to get thrown around, stuff's going to get thrown around, and then I think it's going to kind of settle into where you get into actual realistic business decisions here for some of these companies where I think there's a rush. Hey, we want to be first. We want to be the first company to do it. We want to be the company to offer the most money out there. We've got those deals. And, I'm not saying there's not value to that, but I think there's also some of that going on right now as well. But again, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this market develops as it kind of settles down from the initial rush of everybody trying to go out and grab this deal and that deal.
Yeah, and another thing that's not being talked about either, Kevin. If you're a business, like just say you coming into business now, and it used to be obviously marketing and advertising is obviously gonna run it no matter what, because if you're not advertising and marketing, you obviously don't plan on staying in business. It puts more pressure on businesses to have a face now, and it's not even. Listen. Master P's son, Master P is very strategic. I think Master P got cereal. He got, potato chips. I think he got like laundry detergent. He has a lot of stuff. But now, if you're a business that said, listen, we were trying to get a billboard. No, you better get an athlete. And once again, this might be driving the price down for endorsement guys now. It used to be, now I ain't seen nobody sign with, Apple or anything. I ain't saying that, but it gives more guys a chance to actually endorse something. The average athlete will never endorse anything. You will endorse whatever sports entity you're involved with, NFL, college, whatever. But as far as like having your own individual brand, it's very, very smart. And like I said, God forbid one of these players actually pan out and actually make you the money that you foresee him or her making. Because I think the LSU gymnast, I think she's negotiating a big-time deal right now. But I'm happy for every athlete. It's not going to remain like this. I just think that coming into college, if I know I can make anything off my name and image likeness, that's got to be great for everybody involved. So shout out to everybody right now. It is going crazy. I mean, but if I'm DJ U, he said, yeah, I'm with a sports agent right now. I mean, I'm with an agency, and I will say this. Hey, Dabo, what did Dabo say, BJ? If college football start doing this, he's out of here, right? You see, he's saying something different now, right? Yeah, because he's making almost 10 mil. But shout out to all the players. Male and female. I think it's great. But like you said, Kevin, I kept saying this. Master P son got 2 million. Ain't nobody said a word. You know why? Because they daddy ain't Master P. You know, if I got a chance to make anything, I said something last night. I hope this happens though. Take 50% of what you get and put it away. Take the other 50, give 25% or whatever to your fam. You go blow the other 25, because if you look back on this thing and ain't got nothing to show for it, it's gonna be like you didn't do anything. But I'm proud and happy in everybody involved. And NCAA, you had a chance to get out in front of this thing, and this is what happened when you let other people decide the rules for you.
Yeah, very happy for the student athletes and endless possibilities, countless possibilities. I mean, the marketing world, you know, is such a wide one, and you're talking about all kinds of different things you could do, whether you're talking about like being on a billboard or representing this company or that company, social media. You're talking about traditional media. You're talking about having representation or teaming up with firms, and all of this is really exciting. And it's a modern adaptation of an amateurism system that's been really outdated and has been antiquated and has not sort of developed as the landscape of college athletics has in ways that are immeasurable. So I think we're still sort of learning. I mean, what's amazing is we were talking about this the other day, Kevin. This has been kind of a leading talking point, right, for quite some time, that it kind of feels really, really new and like something we've been dealing with for a long time at the same time. And in reality, it's literally been a couple of days. It's literally been a couple of days. So like, you know, you were talking about establishing market value, and you know, we asked that question yesterday. I don't know how long that takes. You know, you talk about kind of where will all the opportunities come from? I don't think we know yet. I think there are people still trying to figure out, hey, could this be a possibility? Could that be a possibility? What's kind of the next iteration of this new name, image, likeness, rights era? I don't think we know, but it's exciting, and the student athletes have worked incredibly hard, and it's a lot of information to follow. It's a lot of breaking news to follow, but I absolutely think this has been a long time coming, and I absolutely think you're going to see more of this on the horizon. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting again, because I think people think of hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that to make money. I think just in seeing some of the interesting things, BJ and Ben, I don't know if you saw this out there. Will Ulmer, a lot of people might not know who that is. He plays football for Marshall, right? He's a center. He put out a tweet yesterday and said, look, I can now go play live shows as Will Ulmer. Apparently he's got a band. He's a country music singer as well as playing football. Couldn't go out and get paid to play music live. Now he can. And so I think that is one of those things where it's like, hey, I can actually go out and be myself, play my gigs and get paid for it. Whereas before he couldn't. You're going, so wait, he couldn't as a musician. No, yes, he plays football. As a musician, couldn't go in a bar and play from 9 to 10 or 9 to 11, whatever, and get paid for doing so. Nope. Not as Will Ulmer, he couldn't. Now he can. So something as simple and as easy as that, now student athletes can go do.
Absolutely, and I'm happy for them. I really, really am. I think what we're learning too is everybody doesn't want to go pro. Like let's stop thinking that, guys, let me cash out because I'm not. No, it's a chance to have a brand that lasts past, your collegiate playing days. And BJ, I know it's something we're gonna get to. Now where you play really matters. Not just the team you play, where that team is located. If you're in Atlanta, if you're in Miami, if you're in Boston, if you're in LA, if you're in Chicago or DC, these big cities, well, all it takes is one yes. Hey, because you know how it starts, Kevin. Okay, we're gonna give you this, or BJ, we're gonna give you that. But
and we are going to get to Dr. Welch Suggs. He will join us next hour. We had to reschedule him a little bit He will join us coming up in hour number 2 in about 30 minutes or so from right now. We'll talk to him about all of that that's out there as well. So much more to come here on 3 and Out. We will take 3 right around the corner. As we mentioned, Travaris King next hour. What Dr. Welch Suggs will join us next hour as well. It is 3 and Out. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And we're back with more 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben on this Friday. Braves and Marlins later tonight. Hawks, Game 6 coming up on Saturday night as well. And a more desperate situation for Atlanta there as we go into the weekend. Got to win that to force a Game 7 coming up on Monday.
Well, and I don't think there's any way to know right now where we are with Trae Young. You know, I think getting him as much rest as possible has probably been absolutely necessary in terms of dealing with a bone bruise on the foot. Ben, I think you told us you had maybe an injury very similar to that. But to go back to just kind of the recap of last night, you've got to be more effective in the paint with your rebounding, your defense, your scoring. The reason you lost last night wasn't necessarily because you didn't have enough total point production. You scored 112 points, but you were outscored by 30 in the paint. And that was just a real difference and just hard for Atlanta to respond to, because when your opponent is getting shots right around the basket, right? And your kind of counter is, if they're shooting from 3 to 5 feet away and your counter is to shoot from 20 to 24 feet away, well, that's a hard level of efficiency to match. And Bucks center Brook Lopez scored 33. Not only did he score 33, Ben, he was 14 of 18 from the floor, which is absolutely elite. I mean, that is like video game type production. So I think coming back home, I think coming back into Atlanta will be a big deal. I think the Hawks should be confident. You move on. You know what you have to address. You know where you have to be better. If you get Trae back, that'll be a big boost. But regardless, you need a little more from John Collins. You need to be more effective on the glass. And I think this team is capable of that. You just got to have it. And I think you move on from Game 5. It is what it is.
Oh, yeah, you definitely have to move on from Game 5. I mean, give the Bucks a lot of credit bouncing back in Game 5 and showing another I mean, dare I say, BJ and Kevin, when you look at how they won the game, is bigger than that they won the game. And now with Atlanta, okay, you know that Middleton got a chance. He can go off. I think Drew Holiday. I think he had his best game last night as well, as far as like scoring the basket. I think if you do get Trae back, okay, that's one. Okay, you know who gonna lead the team in scoring, and hopefully he gets double-digit assists. If you Collins, something you said, Kevin, in the opening segment, you cannot allow Brook Lopez to get to his spot, because that was a clinic. I'm sorry. Brook Lopez is a good player. Last night, he was a great player. There's nothing you can do with him. 14 to 18, that's about as good as you can do in a league that doesn't really have big men anymore. You got big players. They don't play like big men. They want to shoot threes, be on the perimeter. I just think that for Collins and Capella to understand that they're going to have to make their presence felt, make life hard on Brooks, because if he have a game like he did in Game 5 and Game 6, I don't care if you get Trae back, because you still got to stop Middleton. Those guys. Game 6 will be over.
Yeah, Game 6 is going to be for all. I think you put all your eggs in the Game 6 basket and hope you get to Game 7, and whatever you have left is whatever you have left. I think at that point, when it's all said and done, we'll take 3 coming up on the flip side. Tavares King next hour. Also, Dr. Welch Suggs will join us. We'll talk name, image, likeness with him. Also, in the final hour of the program, Sean Bedford will join us. Georgia Tech Radio Network, former Yellow Jacket football player as well. And we'll have a little college football quiz for Cody Queen in the final hour as well. So looking forward to that. It's also 4th of July weekend. Be safe out there, but that means we got the hot dog eating contest going on again this year. BJ and Ben, I know they kind of did it remotely last year because of COVID, but I believe they're back out in Coney Island this year, and everybody's going to be looking to see if Joey Chestnut let the pandemic get to him or if he's still cramming 70 dogs in his face in 10 minutes.
I was going to say, what's the goal? I mean, is it 100? Is it 80? What's the goal?
I would think physics at some point comes in. It's like you just literally cannot fit any more hot dogs in your gut. Like I would think that would come into play.
What you call a hot dog eating contest, I call it a wet bread eating contest. That stuff gets nasty. It's nasty.
That part is gross. That it is the most disgusting, beautiful display all at the same time. That hot dog eating contest. We're coming right back. Hour 2 next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here. Hour 2. Kevin, BJ, and Ben on this Friday. A lot to get to. We'll chat with Dr. Welch Suggs this hour. Also, Tavares King, former Georgia NFL wide receiver. We'll get his thoughts on college football playoff expansion, this year's 2021 Georgia team, and also obviously name, image, likeness, which we have seen just explode here in the first day or so that it has been available to college athletes. So we'll get to that. But first, a very special edition of Take 3 here on 3 and Out. And, of course, it is our own Cody Queen's final day with us here on the network. So Take 3, BJ and Ben, is just for him today. Is a Cody Queen Take 3. And I will ask the first one, and before, Cody, you answer, I will have to have BJ explain the significance of it because some folks may not know why we are asking this. So I will ask the question. BJ, you can give the backstory to why we're asking it, and then we'll let Cody explain. Take 1. As amateurism continues to change, Cody, is it still defined by the Better Business Bureau?
Was it really amateur in the first place?
Right. Okay. But to go back probably over a year, when we were having one of these early big picture discussions about amateurism, and to your point, Cody, is amateurism, real? Is it consistent? How do you define what amateurism is? And we were speculating, thinking about all the upcoming change. And, we were having just this back and forth conversation where everybody was trying to make sort of abstract arguments. And Cody hops in and goes, and we go, Cody, how do you know? And he goes, you asked the Better Business Bureau. You asked them.
I see nothing wrong with this.
I mean, no, what it was is, Cody kind of hits you with that look over his shoulder, like it's Better Business Bureau, like with the shoulder shrug, like that. That's how you can tell. And we like, what? And he's like, yes, like.
So I guess, Cody, has the Better Business Bureau now lost some of its ability to define amateurism?
It was never amateurism. It was free labor. Well, kind of free labor, but scholarships.
It's more of a barter system.
$30,000 scholarships and making billions of dollars off them. Yeah, I guess it's more of a scam. I guess you would call it. You scammed a bunch of athletes. Ben Troop got scammed.
I would call it a barter system.
Ben Troop deserved more money for being an All-American than $30,000 a year. So I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm just saying, when you get the way you going, if you got a name and image likeness for has-beens, come holler at your boy. I'll give you something off the top, shave a little bit off the top.
I think what really is happening here is Cody is angling to become Ben's agent.
Cody, let me tell you something. I will give you 100% of whatever you can negotiate me, and then we can talk about the fact that Kevin I'm gonna go to the law office of Thomas and Bennett to talk about the statutes of limitations.
All right, Cody, Take 2. This is an important one as well. The University of Florida. This is hypothetical. The University of Florida plays Central Florida in the 2023 college football playoff. Who are you rooting for?
Okay, hold on. Now the reason for this is because when Cody first came down here and not a college football expert, but he said, look, I'm a Central Florida fan. I believe, Cody, that this is correct, that when you were a star high school running back, I believe you had an offer from Central Florida to go play there in Orlando. So you were always the Central Florida fan. And, of course, when you first came on, Central Florida was having a lot of success, undefeated, maybe making it to the playoff, maybe, the team of the year in college football. Then when Florida got really good, it turned into, well, I'm from Florida. I got a lot of Gator fans in the family. I'm friends with Ben Troop. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, now you're a Central Florida fan and a Florida fan. So if they play in a couple of years in the playoff, who are you rooting for?
Number one, that's not true. I've long said from day one, if Florida ever played UCF, I would always root for Florida. Just because I'm a supporter of one team, if I want another team to have success, not against the team, my main team, obviously, I've never said or have flip-flopped ever. I am a supporter for certain teams, but it does not mean that I am a fan of that team. I could give a crap if UCF ever wins another game ever again. So I do not care as long as Florida does well.
So if you,
I wish them the best, yes, but do I care if they succeed? Absolutely, do not. I do not.
Wait a minute. So who do you root for in college basketball?
College basketball is Florida, and college sports in general at all, Florida.
Oh, listen, we just had to confirm because every time we mention Central Florida, you'll be like, they got the most recent national championship. I go, they don't.
It is recognized, is it not?
No.
That's a yes or no question right there.
Cody, this is what I'm saying.
No. Cody has a career in politics, and this didn't work out. Do they have a recognized national champ? I only want yes or no. Only yes or no.
I'm not asking for an explanation.
But that was well played, sir. I got
Thank
that. That's a political move. No, I didn't ask you that. I wanted yes or no.
No, but
No context.
going back
no
to the
nothing.
question, no, I am always been a UF fan. Always been a UF fan. If they played, I hope UF blows them out 72-0, and that they're embarrassed.
UCF would not be playing Florida because when they wanted to get a home at home, and Florida was like, Scott Strickland was like, okay, well, we can do it in Orlando, just not at you guys stadium. They was like, well, we ain't doing it. So who is Florida playing this year on the road? USF. In that stadium. Let's do it.
Can't
UF.
give those Golden Knights anything. That's why we can't have nice things.
Yep.
Because our supporters want us to get beat 72-0 when we play certain sports.
What do you want every other team to just suck forever?
No,
besides
no.
your team.
No,
That's why
it's
I'm
just
not getting around like college
BJ
football.
and I are fascinated by fan dichotomy, where it's like, hey, look, I like this team, but this is my team. I mean, we have long been fascinated by this.
Like, I think they're cool. I think they're fun to watch. But when they play my team, like the team that I support, I want them to get crushed.
Okay,
And
fair enough.
Hurt feelings.
Inside
type of crush.
inside the mind of college football fans, I think that could be a book for
Oh
BJ.
my God. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's gonna be a podcast. Jesus.
And when it comes to college basketball, I am a Gator fan. I'm not like these UGA fans who are like,
jump
I
over
love UGA football,
Kansas.
but man, I love me some Kansas basketball.
Yeah, I
love me some UNC. The biggest thing is UNC. I was actually coaching football one time, and there was a Georgia fan. And then, like a week later, he comes up with like a UNC outfit. I was like, yo, what the heck? He's like, oh, I'm a UNC basketball fan. Like, what? Like, I never understood that.
It is an odd phenomenon that happens.
It does. It's very weird.
BJ and I discovered it long ago. It was like, why are you picking on Georgia fans? It's just because it seems to happen mostly there, where it's like, in the fall, it's red and black. And then the calendar turns to basketball season and the Tar Heel stuff comes out.
Baby
like,
blue,
what
yep.
happened?
Weird.
Start pulling for North Carolina or Duke.
Mhm.
I can't explain it. If I could, then I could probably make a lot of money, but it's just an odd phenomenon. All right, finally, take 3. Cody is a big video gamer, if you know Cody. That's what he enjoys doing in some downtime as well. He plays with video games with me from time to time, with Christian, PJ, some other folks around the office. So who are the best and worst gamers in the office gaming group there?
Okay, and first off, that was weird that Kevin said Cody's a big video game guy. Yep, Cody. No, all of y'all are. First off, all of us are. But I don't even know what y'all are doing. But y'all have you, PJ, Christian, Cody. Y'all are playing like in these group leagues every other night. And Ben and I hear all the stories. So it's time to set the record in the office. Who's the best video game player and who's the worst?
BJ, how old are you?
37, I think.
You are the oldest 37-year-old I have ever met in my life. From just knowing anything about video games or anything when it comes to like any kind of youthful stuff,
Pop culture.
you are the oldest 37-year-old I have ever met in my life.
Well, to be fair, I also haven't ever been invited to play in the league.
A man who, if a popular show that comes out that has anything to do with science fiction, one of the nerdiest guys in the office makes fun of us for being nerds. You know what I mean? The man who
That
likes
being said, answer the question.
it's obviously Kevin, dude. It's obviously Kevin.
Kevin's the best.
No, Kevin's the worst. The best is Christian.
Maybe I'm just playing the wrong game. Maybe you're thinking about that.
Now, you also play your baseball game, and how many games have you actually won in your baseball game?
Touche.
Okay, so it's Kevin the worst, Christian the best, and you can tell how different it is from being single and lonely, being really good, and being a happily married man with kids and being really bad. So you can tell which one has lives and which one doesn't. So I have kids and I am single, so I am in the middle. You know what I mean? So the more you're happy, married, and have kids, the worse you are. The more lonely the fragile your life is, the better you are at video games. So
Are you saying that Christian is
All
All
wrong?
right, Kevin, I knew
video
you guys were playing in the the leagues together, but y'all are playing a baseball
all right,
league now.
you're
No, no,
sounding
no, no,
really
no, no, no.
old. It's not leagues. It's anything like that. It's just an Xbox party.
We played Call of Duty on Xbox.
Yeah, just like you say, words mean things.
Yeah.
And a league is not a part of it.
Yeah, we played.
Okay.
Okay, are you competitive in the baseball Xbox party?
He does. No, they do not play.
I don't play
alongside
baseball. Yeah.
me. That's just something I do on my own, and that's a whole nother story if anybody actually cares. But it's like I play online MLB The Show. That's all I play. My kids play the Road to the Show, all that. So I apparently am really bad
I heard that's
'Cause
a really hard game though.
because I never win, right? But it's got when I first started, I'd never played MLB The Show till this year because it wasn't available on Xbox. Long story short, so I started playing online. Didn't have a great team. As I've gone on, I have a better team, but I lose almost every time, and it's like unbelievably how I lose. Like I lose 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, 2-1. Usually in the 8th or 9th inning every time, and it's like uncanny how I always lose. And so I come in every day. I said, "Yep, I lost again, 1-0." And so like the other day, literally, this happened. I lost a game in MLB The Show, 1-0. Guy had one hit. It was a homer, and I had 5 hits, couldn't score a run. I struck him out 18 times, and I lost 1-0. So I had a 1-hit loss. That's how bad I am at that game, that I give up 1, 2, 3 hits, and I still can't win. It's unbelievable.
I mean, Kevin, you seem to sound like very dedicated to the game. I mean, who are you? Who are you, DeGrom? Are you DeGrom on the game?
No, I'm just bad.
Well, I will say this. I mean, I like the fact that Cody said that the reason why Christian is the best is because he is, quote, single and fragile. And that's why he's really good on the game. You got in order to enjoy the game, you need to be married with children. That way, you like, I don't care about being the best at the game. I mean, quote, I have a life.
No, if anybody wants to play me on MLB The Show, that's fine. I will probably boost your stats tremendously in the win column.
So
Help you out big time.
when it comes to being like good and bad with video games, I think it's more popular and more normal to be bad because you have a life. And it's probably more sad that you're good at video games because you don't have a life, right? Is that not correct? You know,
What about in
sad.
the words of BJ? What about the Dungeons and Dragons?
See what?
There is no Dungeons and
Yeah,
Dragons.
why are video games
telling
described
you,
with Dungeons and Dragons?
hop
I don't
hop on Call of Duty one time, and you'll like it. I'm
Yeah,
terrible at the
we're
game,
out
but
there.
I-
I'm reliving my days in Afghanistan,
Hold on.
bodies,
At what
and
point-
having
at
fun on
what
Call of
point-
Duty.
At what point do y'all start shooting each other? Do Christian start shooting y'all?
Oh, we used to play PUBG, and we had a guy named Salty Joe.
Yeah,
He was
you actually did
infamous
shoot each other.
for shooting us in the back all the time. Yeah, watch out. Friendly fire. Not very fun when that happens.
So yeah, video games, a lot of fun. Play with Cody Queen. You'll have a good time, I promise. That's take 3 just for Cody. We do it every day here at this time. We'll come back. Dr. Welch Suggs will join us. We'll talk name, image, likeness with him. And where's this thing headed now that we've seen the explosion in just a day and a half since this thing has been open and going? He joins us next. Good to have you here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, as name, image, likeness continues to grow and grow by the day. We've already seen a $2 million deal, a $20,000 deal, several other deals out there in the works from prominent players. But where does this thing go as it moves forward? Dr. Welch Suggs, Associate Professor of Journalism, University of Georgia, joins us here on 3 and Out. Dr. Suggs, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to be with y'all.
Hey, thanks for coming on. And I know obviously this is still relatively new, as in, since it's been available to be taken advantage of, as in, not even 2 days yet. But where's this thing headed as you see athletes find out more and more about what they are allowed to now do that they previously were not?
It's just been crazy, hasn't it? I mean, college sports is not known as an industry where things move fast, but I think Nicole Auerbach of The Athletic said we were at the scented candle stage around noon yesterday, so we weren't even 12 hours into this. But, it's actually kind of amazing that I think that for the first time, athletes are literally rewriting the rule book. And you could look at it as they're making stuff up as they go along, but, maybe that's okay. Maybe this is a market discovering itself. So it's just been kind of fascinating to watch.
I was going to say, how do we know kind of what the long-term, not viability, but the long-term kind of market is moving forward, given that we're so early on into this? Do you think that this is going to be something that takes a couple of years, maybe even to sort of establish itself?
I think it'll be a little bit quicker than that, but a little like Bitcoin or, the rage a couple of months ago for NFTs, where everything just went crazy and we had lots of really big deals and lots of big crashes, and then things are still kind of moving along without any real clear pattern. I think that may be where we are, but the real question is, how are things going to get regularized? How are things going to get institutionalized, if you will, in college sports? And so I think that probably there's going to be a pattern routine that develops within, I don't know, maybe a year or so, where athletes kind of learn the process. Either you're going to be in a school situation where they are offering you studio space or, setting you up with a consultant to help make deals. Or on the flip side, I guess other more worrisome part of it is, our coach is going to say, okay, guess what? You can't do any of this stuff during the season. Or if you're voting things, during the week, you might get less playing time on Saturdays or things like that. So I think those are the rules of the road that are going to come into being. But I think the fascinating thing is that this isn't coming top down at the NCAA saying this is how it's going to be. They kind of lost their opportunity for that. But instead, it's really coming from the bottom up. And I think we're going to see things evolve kind of basically on a team-by-team basis or even an athlete-by-athlete basis.
I was going to say, Doc, how much is this going to fall on the coaches to be able to have to do what the NCAA had plenty of time to do, but kind of like the rules are kind of like outside of their jurisdiction now. If you are, Kirby Smart, who what he says go, and obviously most colleges and university head coach is the biggest face or name on the campus. How much of this is going to be just the head coaches of these big time schools willing to be the bad guy to kind of quote enforce the rules?
Well, that's exactly the right question to ask, because, a lot of times it's happening not even on a school-by-school basis, but on a team-by-team basis. And Kirby can probably go out and hire 15 people to do this with his football players. But does that mean that gymnasts or cheerleaders or soccer players or even basketball players at UGA are going to get the same level of service? I don't know. I mean, things are completely crazy right now. I mean, I've had more than one person say to me that it's the Wild West. But to your point, coaches like Kirby or Nick Saban or pick your, high major football coach are used to having an awful lot of control. That's the key question to ask is, are they going to maintain control over this, or are athletes actually getting some agency and some ability to do their own thing? And that's going to be the really interesting thing to watch.
Dr. Welch Suggs joining us here on 3 and Out. And Dr. Suggs, you look at right there at the University of Georgia. How does this, obviously the first thing everybody thinks of is the football program, but Georgia obviously has well-renowned programs in a number of sports. How does this affect the totality of the student athlete population in your estimation there in Georgia?
Well, if we look just specifically to Georgia, Yeah, the interesting thing to me is that, so I teach in the sports media program. We have fabulous students. I believe you're acquainted with at least one of them. And they all have the opportunity to build their brand, to make their way. And that can be in whatever direction they want to go in. And I think now for the first time, athletes have that same ability as other students. And so what's going to happen, and what you're seeing already happen, is that the athletes who have established a personality, who have established sort of who they are on social media, on TikTok and Instagram and other things that old guys like me can't really get our heads around, they will have great opportunities to build their own brands in this way. And so I think it's just going to be a lot of fun for me as a professor and mentor to some of these young people, is to watch and see how creative they can get with it. But yeah, just because you are, say a world-class long jumper as opposed to a world-class quarterback, you're going to have opportunities and you're going to have a chance to develop yourself and build a community and build a group of people cheering for you, just like the guys who play between the hedges on Saturday.
And Dr. Suggs, you referenced social media there. I mean, how much of this is potentially centered around that, with these big digital reaches and profiles that so many of these student athletes already have?
Right. Well, that's what we're seeing first. That's what we're seeing most. I still think my favorite one is the guy at Rice who, is trying to attract endorsement deals to help his roommate get a date or something like that. And we're seeing stuff like that happen all over the place. And some of it's on a very small deal. The NAIA has actually had NIL empowerment rules in place for a year now. And so a lot of athletes are getting like $30 to $50 deals to, say represent a local pizza chain. That may seem like chump change, but, guess what? If you're a college kid at a small college, say in Michigan, that's, pizza money for the weekend. That's not such a bad deal. So I think actually the interesting parts, the two things I'm most curious about are who is going to be able to do, make big money off of autograph deals. Obviously, Georgia, we've had kind of a checkered past when it comes to issues like that. But, the basketball player at Iowa, Jordan Bohannon, who is signing autographs at a fireworks stand this weekend. I mean, how much more America can you get than that? But things like autograph deals, bigger things like potentially, selling products and things like that, where you start talking real money. And the other thing that may not be so big, but I'm really interested in, is athletes being able to give private lessons. Like, could I hire a Georgia soccer player to train with my kid? And, is that something that could be, an opportunity for them to make money and for my kid to get better? It's just sort of an interesting thing to ask.
And Doc, you mentioned, obviously, when you talk about being able to mesh one thing with the next, you talked about social media and Instagram, how it might be harder for you to navigate, whereas these student athletes, they came up in a social media type world. I know what you do now. Do you see it branching off to have more of a just strictly sports department in media saying, look, I know you guys might not necessarily want to be media personalities, but there's a way to be able to gel this, because no bigger brand builder than being out front, being on TV every single day. And does it change the scope of how these student athletes look at the pro sports league, saying, look, I never thought I would be able to have a job, after college sports, not in my sport. Does name, image, likeness kind of get them out of the realm of putting one big egg in one basket?
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. There's always been jokes about college athletes taking pay cuts to go to the pros. You're talking way back, going back to the Southwest Conference days and stuff like that. I think the great thing is, one of the NCAA's old lines is that, there are 500,000 athletes, and almost all of them are going pro in something other than sports. I think this does open a lot of really interesting opportunities for those athletes who can't make a ton of money to, in the draft, to develop a personality, to develop a brand beyond that can sustain them and be a bit of a career for some period of time. The other piece of it, though, I think is really important, is that let's just take a football player maybe who is in college for 3 years and then goes to the league from there. You know what? Now, instead of, people first getting introduced to that kid at NFL draft or something like that, all of a sudden now they've got 3 years to build their brand and build a personality and leverage that. So can you imagine how big Trevor Lawrence would be if he were coming into Clemson as a freshman now and had 3 years to build up his star power and everything he was, and just all the money he could have made from hair products just to start with? Think about it.
Yeah, that number would have been well up there for Trevor Lawrence at the end of the day. Dr. Welch Suggs, Associate Professor of Journalism at the University of Georgia, our guest here on 3 and Out. Dr. Suggs, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Y'all have a great weekend.
Will do. Dr. Welch Suggs, our guest here on 3 and Out. More to come all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad to have you along. Our next guest, Georgia's former University of Georgia NFL wide receiver, over 2,600 yards and 20 touchdowns in his career at the University of Georgia. 5th-round draft pick in 2013 by the Denver Broncos. Tavares King joins us here on 3 and Out. Tavares, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man, we appreciate you coming on. Obviously, college football has changed a lot in just a short amount of time since you have been out. You've got a 12-team playoff on the way. You got name, image, likeness going on starting this week. Speak to that as a former player, now seeing these young men and women have the ability to go out and earn some money off of themselves here, obviously in the off season, or just to promote themselves while they're in college and make some money.
Yeah, I think that name and likeness thing is a huge deal. I think it's a big positive thing for the players and for the student athletes. I think that those guys and girls will begin to be able to make a profit off of their eclectic interest and have a way to do things outside of just their sport.
I was going to say, student athletes are big stars in many cases, like yourself. I mean, how long has this been needed for college sports, for student athletes in a wide variety of sports to be able to profit off of, their hard work, their likeness, their imaging? And we're clearly seeing it 2 days into this, but how long has this been needed in your mind in college sports?
I think it's been needed for a while. I mean, being a student athlete, you don't really have time to have a job. Your job is going to study hall early and going to those extra workouts and things like that. So I think this is going to benefit student athletes in a tremendous way.
And Tavares, obviously, when you at a place like the University of Georgia, as you mentioned, you don't get a lot of downtime. From the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed, everything you're doing is structured. So you don't get a chance to go out there and make any more money. You was blessed enough to play in the National Football League. How much farther along business-wise would you have been just, going through having an agent and dealing with the hustle and bustle of the NFL? How much more prepared would you have been for the business side of football had name and image like been out when you was at Georgia?
Man, I think that's something that's going to have to be looked at. Honestly, I think that opens a door for a lot of people to be taught things about their financials. I think that's going to be something that's going to have to be talked about. I think that schools will have to bring people in to talk about, the financials of getting a 1099. If they do get endorsed by somebody, that money isn't technically free. So I think that's something to talk about. I think that it gives the schools another opportunity to prepare these kids for, the real world as well.
And Tavares, obviously that's just one part of college football. We see that they're looking to expand the college football playoff to 12 teams. Obviously, that puts Georgia in a pretty good spot traditionally to be in one of those top 12 teams. How excited are you for college football to see that expanding? And I know Georgia's had several times where maybe under the BCS they would have been 3, or in the playoffs they've potentially been 5 or 6. How exciting is that to kind of see that open up for more schools, more opportunities to get in and play it out?
Well, I'm super excited. I'm one of those people that was rooting for an expansion. So, I'm excited that it's here. The dogs should have been 5 or 6 in that thing, a couple years. So I'm definitely excited. It definitely gives people an opportunity to get their name in the hat. And who wouldn't be excited about more football anyways?
And you were on some teams at Georgia that were very highly ranked, of course. How do you think some of your teams would have done in the college football playoff? And is this a format moving forward? I think a lot of people, Tavares, have said, hey, you're going to have at least 2 or 3 SEC teams in every year. Does playing in the SEC better prepare you for a big tournament like this?
Yeah, I think we would. I think, in my day, we would have matched up pretty well in a playoff format. And, we would have been pretty well. I think it suits the SEC pretty well. I think it gives the SEC an opportunity to have more teams in it, which I think is very deserved.
And Tavares, I know this has not been talked about yet. I mean, I know we in the name and image likeness world now. We've only been in it 2 or 3 days now, but what's What's going to happen if the name and image likeness, start spreading to, former players? Because the thing about it, you was in the NFL. I was blessed enough to be in the NFL, but there aren't too many brands as big as the University of Georgia. I mean, the state of Georgia got the Falcons. It got the Hawks, it got the Braves. But I would still say the Dogs are still the biggest brand in the state. What happens when your phone rings and a company around your neck of the woods saying, Tavares, maybe want you to come endorse us these days?
Yeah, that's some of the things that I was speaking on earlier. You're gonna have to have almost agent like guys talking to these athletes, giving them insight on who's good to go with, who to work with, who to not work with. So it's gonna be an interesting thing. Again, like you said, we've seen a little more of that in the NFL, working with bigger advertisements and things like that. But it's going to be so interesting. It's going to take a lot of education. It's like we're 3 days into it. It's going to be a lot to unwrap.
And Tavares, I mean, obviously this is great right now, right? We're seeing deals going all over the place. I mean, I seen, you got guys doing it with PetSmart and Milo's Tea. I saw that Master P's son just signed a $2 million deal with a tech company, and he hasn't even got to college yet. Right now, everything is all smiles. What scares you about name and image likeness, though?
I mean, the thing that scares me about it the most is just the back end. Money looks great on the front end, but like I said, Uncle Sam's gonna want something back, and we don't necessarily teach kids about the ins and out about financials in high school. I think that's the scariest thing, is that these kids will, not know what to do with that money or not know how to handle that money, and it just all be for naught.
Here on 3 and Out, and finally, Tavares, what about the Dogs here in 2021? I know receiver position is going to be one that's looked at by and large all season long, with some injuries already at that spot. But what is your kind of outlook here for Georgia as they get ready to get fired up in about a month?
And I'm super excited about this year. I think we got a lot of opportunity. We got a lot of guys back on the offense that I'm excited about. Jermaine Burton, my guy out wide. I hope he has an amazing season. Obviously excited to see what JT Daniels does with the ending to the season that he had last year. So super excited about our offense. On the defensive side of the ball, we lost a little bit on the secondary, but obviously we got one of the best defensive coaches in the land. So I know he's going to have those guys ready to roll.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And again, I think fall practice starts in about a month here in Athens. Tavares King joining us here on 3 and Out. Tavares, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Oh yeah, thank you guys.
Appreciate it. Always good checking in and catching up with former players there, and certainly 2,602 yards in his career at Georgia. And I know the receiver position going to be under the microscope here in 2021, BJ.
Yeah, and I think he's talking about, Jermaine Burton. I mean, look, JT Daniels, this Georgia offense has a chance to be one of the most dynamic passing offenses we've seen at Georgia. And I think that when you think about some of the playmakers that the Dogs have, you think about Tavares King, who went over 900 yards, I think, in one season, and had almost 3,000 yards for his career. So when you look at Georgia's offense for this fall, I think you see the potential for playmakers similar to Tavares King to be out there and be productive, be impactful. And JT Daniels, everybody talking about him. Spotlight's already on. Of course, you're opening up against Clemson, but good chatting with Tavares. And I think that a lot of people are excited about this offense, Ben, and the potential for how productive it could be.
Yeah, I mean, Tavares mentioned Jermaine Burton. He's going to be the headline. I mean, he was going to have a great season. I think Jermaine Burton, even if George Pickens would have played. You want to see how, Eric Gilbert transfers to his talent translate to the wide receiver position. Darnell Washington, Kearis Jackson. I mean, one football, a lot of mouths to feed, but you rather have a bunch of 5-stars, a 5-star throwing to a bunch of 5-stars. It could get very, very scary, BJ, because we talking about Georgia and we ain't even talking about the running game. Because, yes, they still got those guys, too. Look out if you got to play them Dogs. It should be a good one opening week against Clemson.
And we've got more to come here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Friday afternoon, Kevin, BJ, and Ben. If you missed any portion of the show, ESPNCoastal.com. Go to our YouTube page, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, get a podcasted version of the show each and every day. And again, some sad news out there on Twitter. If you missed it, former Georgia, Miami head coach Mark Richt announcing on Twitter that he is battling Parkinson's disease, but in true Mark Richt fashion, staying upbeat with the message and say, hey, I'll see you guys on ACC Network coming up in the fall. But certainly a lot of folks we've seen today extending their well wishes to Mark Richt as he battles Parkinson's disease, as he put out there yesterday.
Yeah, tough news to see yesterday, and wishing Coach Richt the best. Obviously, thinking about him and praying for him. And you're talking about a guy that is impacted a lot of people. And I saw that message that he posted on Twitter, and yeah, he's gonna be optimistic and certainly thoughtful and he's gonna have a positive attitude clearly moving forward through this. But thinking about Coach Richt and his family and praying for them as well.
Yeah, I mean it hit me real hard yesterday when he said it, when he announced it. I mean too often at times we be thinking like, why do we admire somebody? Why is somebody close to us? And we all share a common love for football, college football specifically. It has nothing to do with who we coach for. It has nothing to do with it. Just, I mean, the man will always supersede the coach, and I'm wishing him nothing but the best. Mark Richt has a great look on life. He has a great perspective. I mean, we're not going to laugh about it. Him trying to make light of it is one thing, but I mean, Coach Richt, obviously we praying for him, praying for his family. Like he said, he's going to see us on ACC Network, but. Yeah, real life trumps everything, and I wish him nothing but the best. But it just shows that we are admirers of each other. Sometimes unfortunately, it takes tragedy for us to acknowledge the admiration we have for each other. But I'm wishing him nothing but the best, and obviously I'm praying for him. And like I said, man, it just hit me really, really hard, man. Mark Richt is great, as great as a coach he is, even greater man.
Yeah, one of the best people out there I think you're ever going to run across if you spent some time with him. In a football setting, in a non-football setting, BJ, I mean, he's just a guy that's always been very humble guy, very gracious with his time. And again, we certainly wish him the best as he continues that fight and moves forward. Now, he said, look, I'm going to be around talking college football here in the not too distant future. So we certainly wish him the very best. We've got more to get to still on the show. Coming up in the final hour, Sean Bedford going to join us. Georgia Tech Radio Network, former All-ACC center for the Yellow Jackets. We're also going to do a little quiz when we come back. And normally that's a bad thing because it involves one of the three of us, and it usually ends poorly. But, BJ, we are going to quiz our own Cody Queen, his last day here on the show. And when he came here, not a college football fan by his own admission, has become more of one since he's been here. So we're going to see how much his knowledge has increased. We're going to give him a college football quiz here when we come back in the next hour.
I think that's the idea here, right? Because people may be going, okay, when Cody first joined the team, big time NFL fan, big time Broncos fan, but was kind of new to college football, didn't know a ton, his own admission in terms of college football history, right? Well, we would hope, running the show for a couple of years that maybe he's picked up a little bit. I know he's been able to go to a couple of games. What kind of face is that, Ben? I think he's going to do well. And it's basically a college football quiz for Cody, kind of an exit quiz, if you will. I think he's going to do really well. I'm excited about it.
I just want to hear some of these answers because a couple of years back, me, producer Jim, and Cody goes to the game, Florida, Miami, and Cody looks at me at Jim and goes, "Do you guys feel that?" Yeah, like it's like an energy, right? Like, like yeah, Cody, like this is real, like absolutely, Cody. But yeah, I just want to hear these answers because Cody will 100% say exactly what he's thinking. I cannot wait.
That was the first time, because Ben is one of my great friends. This is the first time where I was like, Ben's famous. Like people know the hell out of some Ben down there in Florida. You know what I mean? Like we're walking through, Ben was just like earphones on, just kept on walking. Because if you would have stopped for every person, there would have been a freaking gang of people on him. So that was the first time where I knew, even though you're like a starter 1 year and you only get 4 years in college, It doesn't matter, dude. Those 4 years, your name will live on forever. That's when I knew college freaking legends are like, it's something different.
Cody, you was on the elevator with Urban Meyer, like looking at him in the face.
Stalking Urban Meyer. We'll come back. We'll get to that quiz when we come back. It is 3 and Out all across Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you. 3 and Out final hour on this Friday. So much to get to. Sean Bedford will join us, former Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket, now with the Yellow Jacket Radio Network, all ACC Center as well. We'll talk name, image, likeness. We'll look at the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets for 2021 as well. So we'll get to that. Look ahead to the Braves and the Fish coming up this weekend. And, of course, the Hawks. Big Game 6 coming up on Saturday night in the ATL for the Atlanta Hawks. So we'll look at that coming up in just a little bit as well. But glad to be here. Final hour of the show. Also the final hour that we will have one Cody Queen with us as we say goodbye to him as he moves on to some other things, another state, another area code, but certainly not gone from us forever. But we will miss Cody. So I'm
not dying. Jeez.
I know. I was like, I didn't mean to say it that way. But anyways, we have put it together, BJ. You explained it perfectly.
If the Taliban can't get me, radio can't get me.
Cody came to us as an NFL fan, huge NFL fan. So like, I don't get it with college football. Why is it like? And then now as he's been immersed, he's kind of picked up a little bit. So we thought on your way out, Cody, we will give you an exit quiz. And these are not like, hey, who had 682 yards rushing in 2005 for Ole Miss? No, we're not going to ask you that. These are general college football questions that we feel Cody should be able to answer, right? If his knowledge has increased, or at least most of them.
Yeah.
So that BJ came up with the questions, so I will read them. But BJ, I think we have all gone over the questions. Pretty fair down the middle questions, right? Yes.
No. I look.
Okay.
I think
I'm ready for you to respond.
Yeah.
I was looking over the questions and kind of doing a count to how many I think he'll get. We have 15. I think he'll get 10.
I'm about to say,
Okay.
what's the over under? What would
I think
Vegas
10
do?
might be a little high for me.
10, yeah.
I will go 9 because I think the true number is like 8.5, somewhere around half of them. So I'm going to go 9. Ben, what's your wager on how many Cody gets here on the college football quiz?
Oh man,
Out of 15.
I'll say 8. I think he'll get 8.
Okay, so we have a wide spectrum. BJ 10. I had 9. Ben has 8.
If I get 6, I think I'll be successful.
So Cody is shooting the bar way low. It says, I think you should be able to get more than 6, Cody.
Well, I
If
do
you get
shoot the
13 or
bar
14
low. I did that with my last marriage, and you know what that happened with, you know?
I think if you get 13 of these or 14, like you will be surpassing expectations doing really well. Here we go. Alabama wide receiver Devonta Smith won the Heisman in 2020. Who finished second in the Heisman Trophy balloting?
Who finished second?
Or the runner-up?
The runner-up. Ooh.
Second in the Heisman Trophy. Can't have a lot of dead air here while you're waiting to answer that.
I'm going to go with Justin Fields.
Justin Fields was a good guess. Actually, Trevor Lawrence.
I was going to.
What? Don't.
How many times are you going to be second place?
I do this all the time. BJ told me this a long time ago. He goes, quit second guessing. Just go with your gut.
All right. I got it.
And you'll be right.
All right,
I will talk myself out of more right answers than you and I believe. Okay, take 2. And that was one I thought you might struggle with a little bit. These, I think, get a little better. Name the 7 teams in the SEC West.
SEC West, so you got Arkansas, Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. How many is that?
You have got 5 of the 7 so far.
Okay, let's see. Missouri. That's the East, huh?
Is that your final answer?
No, that's not my final answer.
Okay,
Okay.
Because you kind of said it and then backtrack, so I want to make sure.
So let's go.
You have Alabama.
We got LSU, my boys out there. You know, I'm rooting for them
far
this
you
year.
have Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn,
Yep.
LSU, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss. You need one more.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
Give it to him. Yeah.
And we will give the point because he said Missouri up. Nope, they're in the East. So he did.
Yeah, I did say that.
Back up. So 1 point for Cody so far. What is the mascot? We talk about this team all the time, so you should know. What is the mascot of Coastal Carolina University?
Oh, the Super Chickens. The
Can't accept that.
The Chanticleers.
There we go.
The Super Roosters, though, for real.
I was going to say I cannot accept Super Chickens.
So just like they're feathery raptors. Is all
yes,
they are,
as an answer. Okay, this is one you've been in Georgia long enough. Who was the coach when Georgia won the national title in 1980?
Oh my God!
And let me just say this: we have had this gentleman on the show while you have been with the show.
The quarterback was DJ Shockley. I do know that.
In
I'm just
1980?
playing. Jesus. Took that real serious, real quick. Let's see. Oh my goodness.
Head coach for Georgia in 1980.
I do not know.
It is Vince Dooley.
God dang it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean that's what I thought that was one.
Cody is the man.
For some reason, I was thinking Vince Dooley was a player.
Well, he was a player. I will give you a bonus point if you could tell me where Vince Dooley played college football.
Vince Dooley played college football at Virginia Tech.
No, he played at Auburn.
Oh, dang.
This is again Cody Queen's exit trivia. We're trying to still school you. This is a little bit of trivia.
All right, hold on, Kevin. Hold on, Kevin. After his take about how big of a Florida fan he was, he's got to get the next one.
I know, but here it is. Vince Dooley and Pat Dye were coaches at Auburn and Georgia, respectively. Vince Dooley played college ball at Auburn. Pat Dye played college ball at Georgia and coached on the other side of the rivalry.
Wow.
There you go. See, we continue.
Yeah, I won't remember that for the rest of my life.
No,
I don't know.
that's okay. Here we go. So Cody has got 2 right so far. Still a ways to go to meet the other threshold. As we give him his exit college football quiz. Name Florida's, as Florida Gator fan astute, Cody Queen. Name Florida's 3 Heisman Trophy winners.
3 Heisman Trophy
Yes.
winners. I'm going to go Tim Tebow. He's the first one to ever do it as a sophomore. That's 1. Ooh, man, I do not. Is this?
This is not a trick question at all. No way, shape, or form.
It's not a trick question?
No,
Why'd you say it like that?
Because it's not a trick question. All these, and actually, they're all kind of interrelated in some way as well, but I'll get to that later. Maybe that's confusing you. You need 2 more. Tim Tebow was 1. Think real hard about it. You should be able to get 1. 1 more at least, I would hope.
1 more at least.
Yeah, like 1 is just patently obvious. If you are a Florida Gator fan, like this name should just fall out your head.
Emmitt Smith?
No.
Okay. Dang
Another name. I mean, that's you want me? You give it up?
Ben, you just gave up on him right there. I mean, all right. How about he gets 1 phone a friend with Ben?
It's not Rex Grossman, is it?
No. Do you want to phone a friend
way.
with Ben or not?
Yes, Ben.
All right,
phone
Ben.
a friend.
I can just tell him.
You can give him 1. You can give him 1.
Okay, I know you don't know this one, so I'm gonna give you this one. You know, the one is Danny Warfel, because I don't think you're gonna get the other one. The other one, I mean, Cody, think about it.
Yeah, Cody. This last one is like you should be patently obvious because this individual is legendary. Legendary.
For the Gators?
Yes. Legendary.
He was a coach. Gosh dang it. Did Ben Pillay played for him? Come on, dude. Oh my God. Steve Spurrier. Let's go.
Yeah.
Give him half a point. Give him half a point. Half a point.
Half a point. Okay.
So, man, maybe I should have stuck with 8.5 if we're giving a half a point. All right. Number 6, Cody, your exit college football quiz. What team has made the last 7 college football playoffs? They've made every single one, the last 7. There is a team that has done it. As a matter of fact, they have never not made the college football playoffs. Is that correct?
Ooh, that is not correct. They did not make the first one.
Okay, they didn't make the first one. They've made all the rest of them. Sorry, I didn't mean to be extra confusing.
Oh, really?
But they've made 7 college football playoffs in a row. I mean, it can really only be, think hard, Cody, a couple
Alabama.
That is incorrect.
Dang it. It's Clemson.
It is Clemson.
Dang it.
Talk yourself
See,
out of it.
I talked myself out of it. I was going to say that.
All right, the precursor, Cody, to the college football playoff was the BCS National Championship. Who won the last BCS National Championship in 2013 by beating the Auburn Tigers? I will give you that.
Florida State.
That is correct.
With famous Jameis.
So, Cody, oh, man, I almost, you got 3.5 points.
Crab thief.
All right, Cody Queen. Number 8, who is Central Florida's current head football coach?
Gus Malzahn.
Gus Malzahn is correct. Boy, he is on a roll right now. You tripped him up on Florida Heisman Trophy winners.
I mean, I was going to say, seems to know a little bit more about Florida State and Central Florida than Florida.
All right.
Yeah.
College football exit quiz for our own Cody Queen. Admittedly, came into this job not a huge college football fan, doing fine here on the quiz. What two teams play traditionally in the Egg Bowl?
In the Egg Bowl. Ooh. Iowa State.
Iowa State is incorrect. It is Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Egg
Sounds
Bowl.
like a horrible matchup.
It's a wonderful matchup, and it has high drama seemingly each and every year between those two teams. Do not like each other. All right. Question number 10. You got a little work to do.
Okay.
Name Alabama's last 3 starting quarterbacks. You're an NFL guy. You should know this.
Oh, yeah. You got Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, and then you have Jalen Hurts.
There we go. Correct. So for Cody, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half.
Jalen Hurts.
5.5 correct.
Jalen Hurts
answers.
getting benched in the national championship.
5.5. That is correct. National champion. 5.5. We have 5 questions to go. So BJ still in play here on the top end. What year was Georgia Tech's last national championship?
1990.
I thought he was going to miss it. He got it correct.
Nice.
90. I was like, oh, he's going to say 2 or 3 or something. Correct. Where did Joe Burrow transfer to LSU from?
Ohio State.
Cody
A
is
rally. It's a rally.
He is picking it up. All right. South Carolina had 3 straight 11-win seasons from 2011 to 2013. 3 straight 11-win seasons from 2011 through 2013. Who was the Gamecocks head football coach?
Oh, my goodness. Mike Bobo?
Mike Bobo is incorrect. That would be Steve Spurrier.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe a little bit trickeration there from BJ. Number 14. Who is the current quarterback for Oklahoma?
Spencer Rattler.
Oh, my. I didn't think he was going to
Pretty
get that.
sick logo he's got, too.
I did not think Cody was going to get that.
What am I at?
You are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. I said the line was at 8.5, did I not? And I had to go over.
That's pretty impressive.
How many more I have left?
And I picked 9. You have 1 question
Okay.
left. So this would make me, I guess, most correct since we did give a half point. Where did the 3 Mannings, Archie, Peyton, and Eli, play college football?
Eli played at Ole Miss. Peyton played at Tennessee. Ooh, Archie. Oh, my gosh. Archie played at, I'm going to tell you, I do not know this one, so I'm going to have to just go with Ole Miss.
Ole Miss is
What drama? What theater? Incredible.
I'm a college football god.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
Cody Queen leaving us better than when he got here.
Yes, thank you guys. I
Needless to
literally
say.
didn't know any starting players in college football.
Oh,
when I
man,
first
that is
came here.
amazing.
Yeah.
I thought for sure because I was like, he's going to get Spurrier, and I was going to give him a hint and say, this guy actually played for Steve Spurrier with the Washington Redskins at the time. And I was like, maybe he gets Danny Werfel, maybe he does not. But the half point, I said 8.5. Cody, you got 9.5. Not quite enough to give it to BJ. So I guess I'm the winner on the predictive Cody Queen quiz there as well. We'll come back. We'll talk more college football. Sean Bedford going to join us, Yellow Jackets Radio Network, former Georgia Tech center as well, all ACC. He'll join us next year on 3 and Out. 3 and Out on this Friday afternoon. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Of course, college athletics just in the news all the time right now with expansion. The name, image, likeness, which has just gone bananas here over the first couple of days. It has been offered to student athletes. And joining us here, we'll talk some college football with him. And, of course, name, image, likeness as well from the Georgia Tech Radio Network, former All-ACC center there for the Yellow Jackets as well. Sean Bedford joins us. Sean, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you gentlemen doing today?
We're doing fantastic. And as a former student athlete, obviously this is a brave new world, I guess, for collegiate athletics with name, image, likeness. Obviously, you've seen a number of players do everything from endorsement deals, apparel deals, promotional deals to we've even seen a guy at Marshall say, hey, I can actually go play my live music as myself and get paid for it with my band on the side. So talk about this new world that college athletes find themselves in now that as of yesterday, they were able to profit off of themselves.
Well, and I think that's the key. And what you ended with there is they can profit off of themselves. And I think this is something that has been, I think most college athletes would agree with me, a long time coming. This is something that if we're really looking at what is fair and the ability of student athletes to market themselves and to realize their value in the market, this is a big step towards that. The college model is not set up in a way that would realistically allow schools to pay players. So I think the name, image, likeness, or the Olympic model is really the clear way to do this. And I think it gives student athletes a chance to really realize their full potential on the market, build their brands, and to really capitalize on what for some of them is going to be the peak of their athletic prowess and really the pinnacle of their career.
And Sean, talk about those opportunities being in a major market, like for student athletes at Georgia Tech, obviously, who are right there in Atlanta.
Well, sure. And I think that's one of the exciting things as someone who is involved with Georgia Tech, both as an alumnus and as someone who's a part of the radio team here, having a chance to see what Tech is going to do with this. And I'm very excited to see what Jeff Collins is going to do with this in terms of trying to create opportunities for his student athletes and making them as marketable as they can be. But Atlanta is uniquely situated that way. And Georgia Tech is in a position where you've got Fortune 500 companies on all sides. You've got no shortage of the same kind of businesses you would have in a college town. There's just more of them, and some of them are more high profile. So I'll be interested to see how that works. And one of the things that's going to be tested as we kind of see the progression of name, image, likeness is what relation, proximity, and alumni connections have to some of these deals. Is this going to be a situation where so much of this is digital and via social media that people all over the country are able to benefit through the same channels? Or is this something that's going to advantage students in more, metropolitan campuses like at Georgia Tech, where you can really seize on the appeal and the cachet of the city itself?
Sean, how much does this change the narrative from just you being a student athlete who understands, he or she understands that how I fit within this athletic structure too? Now I'm a part of this business world. Not saying that they're businessmen and women, but how much better are they going to be prepared for life outside of their sport, given the fact that they're going to be a part of these business deals at such a young age?
Well, and I think that's really going to be interesting to see because, I think a lot of student athletes are looking at this saying, well, now I have an opportunity to cash in. And as good as I think this is, I think there are going to be a number of students who are in for a bit of a rude awakening when they see what their value is in the market. But I think they're also going to see that there's a lot of work that's going to have to go into this. But that is going to prepare them for the real world. And they're going to be in a situation where they're not, and Ben, you could probably speak to this too. When I was a student athlete at Georgia Tech, my schedule was so regimented that I really didn't have to step outside of, I didn't have to do a lot of independent thought after I got everything lined up with tutors, with scheduling, with all that. So much of that was kind of pre-programmed for me that I didn't, I got into the real world and it was suddenly kind of a splash of cold water to the face when I realized I've got to figure all this out on my own. This, I think, is going to be a foray for some of these kids into that world where they have to see, I am representing my own business and, I'm going to have to, for lack of a better term, grow up very quickly in a professional sense.
Sean Bedford joining us here on 3 and Out. And again, as you see this thing develop, you talked about, hey, what is the market? What is the fair market? How long do you think it takes to sort all that out? Because obviously this is 2 days old, and I think we're seeing companies take advantage of, hey, we're the first, or we've offered the biggest deal to date, and this and that and so forth. But how do you think we find the true market for what a collegiate athlete's kind of value is out there to be a spokesman, so to speak?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis, and I think that's going to be an ongoing process as we get further along this road. And so much of it's going to depend on individual student athletes, and not just their athletic prowess and their ability on the field, but I think their charisma and personality and what they can project as a spokesperson, in addition to what sort of name recognition they have. So it's interesting if you think back through history, some of the players who really might have been the most marketable. It's not necessarily, certainly it's a lot of very good athletes, but it's not necessarily the best athletes. Oftentimes, I think it's the biggest personalities, and figuring out what that balance is going to be, a continuing thing, not just for the student athletes, but for the businesses who are trying to figure out what their priorities are. How much of this is driven by wanting to give opportunities to these student athletes, maybe because of connections to the schools, and how much of it is really trying to realize a significant profit or a return on this investment. And that is to be determined. I don't think people can really look at this and say definitively one way or the other that they know what they're getting out of these deals on either end.
Sean, also with college football, you've had the evolution of the college football playoff, apparently, which looks like it's moving to 12 teams. Do you think that's a good thing for the game to have a 12-team playoff format?
So I am probably in the minority on this, but I have been a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to playoff, in that I really value sanctity of the regular season. And I think that's one thing that college football has done better than any other sport, preserving the integrity of that season. And by integrity, I just mean that every game means something. It is so difficult to bounce back from a bad loss in college football that, I think having such a selected or such an exacting cutoff to make the playoff up to this point has been really good. So with that in mind, I think I was not one of those people who was all in even on moving to an 18 playoff. That said, the college football playoff to date has given us some incredible semifinal games. It's given us some really good championship games. And I think because of that, I'm looking at this now and saying, well, more good football is not a bad thing. So if we can get some really good marquee matchups late in the season, that's something to be excited about. There is a part of me, though, as someone who's a bit of a traditionalist, that is going to kind of mourn it's not going away, but the minimization of the January 1st just buffet of bowl games on New Year's Day and the importance thereof.
Sean, when you think back on 2020, what are you going to remember the most? With everything going on right now, I remember, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields starting the hashtag "We Want to Play." You look at what the Supreme Court did, even though with everything that was going on in 2020, with being able to benefit from what you do in the classroom now to the 12-team playoff. So much going on surrounding college athletics. How much did 2020 play into that when everything kind of shut down and kind of gave the players a chance to use their collective voices?
Man, so much has happened. And I don't think it's done happening yet. So I'm really kind of hesitant to stop and say there's going to be one thing. Now, if you look back at 2020, I think there's the moment that's still going to stand out to me from last year. And this maybe isn't the best. This isn't a college football specific thing, but to me, the moment that March Madness was canceled was kind of that aha moment. This is really serious. And that was just kind of the tip of the iceberg. And then looking back, and that seeming like eons ago, but that very viscerally stands out in my mind as a moment where I kind of grasped the significance of what we were going through. And the amount of things that have transpired since then, the fact that we had so many false starts on the college football season and ultimately got it, but in kind of a weird form with starting and stopping and teams playing and then not playing, and then, finding out the day of the game that there were 12 people who couldn't play, and then games being canceled at the last minute. Whole leagues moving their seasons to the spring, and then, in the midst of that, having some really good football and probably a historically good Alabama team going to the title, and that being the undercard to some of these revolutionary changes in the sport. And again, I don't think they're done, because if you look at Justice Kavanaugh's concurrence in the recent NCAA case, there's basically an invitation there for people to challenge the NCAA's business model. So I think there's still some major changes to come, and I think we're going to see more and more college football kind of moving in its own direction in a way that's not necessarily aligned with the rest of college sports.
Sean Bedford joining us here on 3 and Out, the Georgia Tech Radio Network, former All-ACC center. And Sean, as we look at 2021 for Geoff Collins and Georgia Tech on the field, one of the toughest schedules you're going to see in college football out there, but obviously the fan base likes the passion, likes the energy that Geoff Collins has brought to the program. But at the same time, obviously they want to see more than 3 or 4 wins on the docket at the end of the day. Can they get there with that schedule?
Well, and you pointed to 2 things, and this is always one of those cliches that coaches like to throw out, that you could be a better team and not see it reflected in the win and loss total. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think Tech is going to be a better team, and I think you're going to see it in the final results. Certainly, Tech fans are not going to be content with 3 wins, although the last 2 seasons, given the circumstances surrounding that, both with COVID last year, but making the transition from really both offensively and defensively that happened in Coach Collins' first year, I think there's a little bit of a grace period that has to be given there. But as you look ahead to this season, this should be a dramatically improved team. Last year was a wild year, but it also provided some incredible opportunities for talented young players to get experience that they wouldn't otherwise have. And getting that freebie year for guys like Jeff Sims, the quarterback, a very talented freshman who came out there and at times looked like he has the potential to be a really good quarterback and an all-ACC caliber player in the not-too-distant future. But there were also moments where you saw him being a freshman, threw 8 interceptions through the first 3 games, but then managed to kind of get things turned around and got focused later in the season. A dynamic runner, a very good passer, has all the talent in the world, but got a lot of that live action early in a way that you can replicate. So getting that freebie year, I think, is going to be really meaningful for his development. And then I think what Tech fans have to be extremely excited about this year is the embarrassment of riches they have at running back, led by Jordan Mason and Jahmyr Gibbs. And Gibbs, when he was healthy and on the field, even against the likes of Clemson, there were moments where you stopped and said, this guy might be the best player on the field as a freshman. And what he can bring to the game as an electrifying runner, as a receiver, as a returner, he has a chance to be someone really special that's known on a national level. But a lot of that's going to depend on the offensive line. And the offensive line, again, last year struggled mightily at times, but they're getting a big boost in a couple of different ways. Got a big return from Ryan Johnson coming back, the Tennessee transfer who was a stalwart at right guard, but only had 1 year in the system last year. He's coming back. They get 3 transfers in who should factor into the rotation, including 2 should-be starters. That's very exciting. Then along the defensive line, the defense last year really had some issues, and at times even the secondary, which should have been a strong suit for the Jackets, struggled. But I think a lot of that can be attributed to a lack of pass rush and havoc along that defensive front 4. This is a defensive end rotation now, again, through the transfer portal, through developing guys. They look to go 6 deep along that defensive end position and get their best defensive tackle back, who was missing all last year in TK Chimedza. So certainly some question marks remain, but I think this is going to be a much more robust team as Coach Collins tries to rebuild this roster to his liking. I think he's very much on the way there. And I think the transfer portal, again, is another example of something that has changed the sport as we know it, has been really instrumental in his rebuilding of this roster.
Sean Bedford, Georgia Tech Radio Network, former All-ACC center, our guest here on 3 and Out. Sean, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thanks as always, guys. Have a great weekend.
Will do. Sean Bedford joining us here on 3 and Out. We'll come back with more all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back, 3 and Out. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Glad you were with us on this Friday. Big weekend coming up for Atlanta sports. You got the Braves and Marlins as the Braves have drawn within 3.5 of the Mets. And, of course, the biggest professional basketball game in the state of Georgia, maybe ever. And I'm not talking about an all-star game. Talking about the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Hawks have got to have it. That's the bottom line, BJ. Obviously, don't know what Trae Young's status is going to be, but I would imagine at this point it is Trae, we got to have you. And if you absolutely can't go, well, I mean, it is what it is, but I think it's one of those where, like, hey, we'll take 40% Trae versus not having you at all. Got to have it in order to continue the season and what's already been kind of a historic run here for the Hawks.
Oh, Trae's doing everything he can to be out there. I mean, he's dealing with a very, very difficult injury, especially given the sport he plays and the role he has. And, to try to overcome that in just a couple of days is just crazy. I mean, Trae is the heart and soul of the team, and talking about a guy who's now a clear superstar in the NBA. But to me, I think, yes, if you could get Trae back, that would be a major thing. But you got to be more effective in the paint. To me, that's where you lost and were really kind of overwhelmed last night, Ben. You were out-rebounded again. Both the games the Hawks have won in this series, they've out-rebounded Milwaukee. But more concerning than that, you were outscored by 30 points in the paint. 30. And Brook Lopez, I think, Kevin, you said this earlier, man, he was looking like Shaq. And, I mean, Bill Russell, he went for 33. And probably more impressive than that, he was 14 of 18. And he really was able to kind of maneuver around the basket, get putbacks, get on the block, post up. And you've got to be able to rebound more effectively, albeit against just an extraordinary rebounding team. And you've got to find a way to be more effective defensively against a really good front court. But look, it's the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, these are the kind of hurdles you're going to have to overcome to move forward. But to me, if you get Trae Young back, that's a huge thing, but you also have to be more effective and proficient down low against this team.
And that's what scares me, BJ. I mean, the one thing about this Atlanta team, they're not going to all of a sudden become something they haven't been all year. Clint Capella and John Collins is not going to all of a sudden become these bangers down low, but can they converge on Brooks Lopez and make life hard for him? Yes, because I've seen him do it against Giannis. And the thing is, and another thing that scares me is, what is going to be the game plan in Game 6 for Milwaukee? Because the way they played in Game 5, I hadn't seen that yet. The same way they played it different in all 5 games this series. But if you get Trae back, that is a boost because you know what to expect from him as long as Trae isn't out there doing too much. This has to be a John Collins game. Kevin, something you said. Obviously, you don't want the season to end Game 6. But John Collins is asking for a certain dollar amount. And I know it's supposed to be based off the entire season. You go out there and give a heroic effort like Brooks Lopez and propel it to a Game 7. That's something that's going to be remembered because every game that Atlanta plays is the biggest game in franchise history. They've never won 2 games in a series in an Eastern Conference Final. So whatever they're doing right now is monumental. If they can win a third and push it to 7, how much more pressure does that put on Milwaukee? Because I think Giannis is going to be out for the rest of the season. I mean, for the rest of the series, maybe the rest of this entire series, even if they do make it to the finals. But Trae provides a boost. You're going to need help. And once again, role players can shine. You can go out there and play a bigger role. If Nate McMillan, which he's vying for the head coaching job, which I think he's earned it, those guys got to play out of their mind. Everybody has an incredible game in them. Brooks Lopez ain't know what the world was going on last night. He's thinking, I ain't been this good since I left Brooklyn. So I just think that Atlanta, like you said, Kevin, throw everything we got at them. Every single thing we got. A Cam Reddish, Herter, lemon pepper, red velvet. It should be a smorgasbord. I think that's the way you say it come Game 6 because if Trae can go, he needs to go. But BJ, you need those role players, specifically John Collins. He owes his Atlanta team one. I think Game 6 is the one.
Well, and I think you need to get that established early. That was one thing that stood out to me last night was the Bucks came out really playing well, but they came out dominating on the glass and really focusing on offensive production in the paint. And, of course, one of the great things about this Hawks team, they can shoot threes, they can spread the floor. You have bigs that can shoot from deep. You have athleticism at every position. But I don't think the Hawks last night had a counter once Milwaukee said, all right, we're going to go with obviously Brook Lopez, but additionally Bobby Portis and PJ Tucker, and we're going to really try to push the ball inside, and we're going to get in on the block, and we're going to try to focus on rebounding. I don't know that they had a great answer to that. So I think the Hawks, look, Capella and Collins are extremely talented. Capella led the league in rebounding during the regular season, but I think if your game plan is more sort of centric in terms of your opponent, clearly they were trying to get on the block and win there. That's something that Atlanta's got to respond to, and I'm sure Nate McMillan, who's done a remarkable job, and the team will. I know last night was disappointing. I know that. But remember, the Hawks are 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. Game 6 is at home. You might have Trey back. You should feel confident about where you are. You've been excellent at home in the postseason. You should feel confident about coming back to Atlanta. You should feel confident about being able to bounce back. And I know it was tough last night, but Atlanta should still feel like they can win this series. 2 wins, 1 at home. As you said earlier in the show, Ben, if this goes 7, that game 7 is a lot of pressure on Milwaukee. Atlanta can still do this.
And again, you got to have that believe Atlanta. We'll see. But again, I think to me, Trey is the key. If he can go at all, just having him out there is a big boost. Obviously, the Bucks aren't going to have Giannis, just not going to be there. If you don't have Trey, as been said, it becomes a full team effort, man. And John Collins, for all that's worth, if you want to be a max deal guy, playoffs are where you earn max money. Right? I mean, that you could talk about what you've done in the regular season, but there's a number of guys that have done it in the regular season. Guys make money off what they're able to do in big games, big spots, playoffs, right? I mean, I know John Collins says, hey, I've been there for you over the season, but 0 for 6 in a big game on the road to get started, you got to have better than that. And I know it's hard, but with Trey out, it falls on his shoulders. It falls on his shoulders to be that guy demanding the basketball and leading his teammates, and hopefully he'll do that here in Game 6, or the season will come to a close. We got more to come here on 3 and Out. Braves and Fish this weekend. We'll get to that and more. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Braves tonight against the Marlins. Big stretch for Atlanta. Marlins, Pirates, Marlins as you head into the All-Star break. So a chance to maybe take advantage of that as you're 3.5 out of the New York Mets. We'll have that for you coming up here in about 8 minutes or so. No, 12 minutes. I can't add today. It's Friday. Don't hold it against me. At the end of the day. So coming up in about 12 minutes, we'll have the Braves and Marlins coming your way. Hawks coming up tomorrow night, following Braves and Marlins as well. So a full weekend of Atlanta sports for you to get after it here this weekend. If you missed any portion of the show, ESPNCoastal.com, our YouTube page, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can get the podcasted version of the show each and every day. But today, as we finish up the show, our last day with our own Cody Queen, fellas, as he moves on to another state, some new ventures there as well. And Cody, it's been a pleasure, man, having you be a part of us. I know you came in and said, hey, this looks like a fun job to do, and you kind of grown into it. And, man, you've been a dude that has done a little bit of everything here since you've been a part of the network, and I appreciate you for everything you've done for the show. And, of course, we spend a lot of time away from the show hanging out. And, again, appreciate your friendship as well. So I know you're moving on, and I'm excited for you, even if we're sad because you're leaving.
It's been a hell of a ride. It's came in as an intern, try to bring a little bit of everything. I was fascinated by the radio world, completely fascinated. And once I got into it, I kind of got addicted to it. I like talking on air, but what I enjoy the most is actually running the behind the scenes. From high school football to high school basketball to running 3 and out, from running the golf show on the weekends. Behind the scenes to me is way more fascinating than it is actually talking on air. And I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity of having this type of career. I went from like everything from high school basketball, high school football to me going to the Super Bowl, for God's sakes. I got to go to the Super Bowl. I think it was the first time this company's ever represented the Super Bowl. And now, since I'm not saying I did it, but got an established NFL presence. So 2 years in a row, ESPN Coastal, ESPN Savannah has went to the Super Bowl now, and I'm proud of what they're doing. The future's bright with the talent that you guys have. When I first came in, it was just 2 and out at the time. I don't know if you remember that, BJ, but Ben would come on once a week for Troop Talk. It was literally 4 people in the studio when I came, and that was it. There was only 4 of us, and then it became 5 whenever it became me. A few months later, Christian came along, but I remember the old days where now I know you remember this, BJ, where we hang out in the big room now, but we used to. There was none of us. There's barely anybody in the company. We hung out in a little room where Mark hangs out now because it was such a small company. You guys have grown a bunch. I want to thank you guys down deep in my heart. I loved it. I'm just moving to Florida to raise my kids down there in peace. I'm gonna be old retiree.
Well, Cody, yeah, you've been instrumental, man, to all of our success, and people hear us, see us, but you've been so big behind the scenes, and thank you so much for everything, man.
Yeah, man, appreciate you, Cody, man, for just being who you are. Sometimes you lose sight of what you got when you got it, but you always brought that energy. You always brought that perspective, and you was always 100% you, 100% of the time. Gonna miss you, man. And I like to say we're not gonna replace you, not looking to replace you. We just gonna have to come down to Florida, holler at you with them sun rays down there.
So if you,
last word on air is, I love you guys.
hey, right back at you, Cody. And if you hear somebody hollering and screaming way down from Florida, it's probably Cody. Having a good time there, moving on. But, Cody, appreciate it, man. Enjoy the weekend. We've got the Braves and the Fish coming up in about 7 minutes. Stick around for that big weekend of the Braves and Marlins. Also, Hawks Game 6 tomorrow night, 8:30. We'll have it for you right here.